The ocean is black, not the black of night sky, but the crushing, suffocating black of 200 feet below the surface where sunlight has never touched. And somewhere in that blackness, a young American sailor named Petty Officer David Ransom is drowning, not in water, in fear. His submarine, the USS Stingray, has just been torn open by an explosion that came from nowhere. Red emergency lights flicker, casting demonic shadows across twisted metal. Water screams through a gash in the hull, and men are shouting over the blare of collision alarms. Torpedo in the water, port side, but there was no torpedo signature, no sonar ping, no warning. The captain, a grizzled veteran of 2 wars, stares at his tactical display in disbelief. "That's impossible," he whispers, and then they hear it, a clicking sound, rhythmic, intelligent, coming from directly outside the breached hull. Click, 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 click. Ransom presses his ear to the cold steel, and his blood turns to ice, because that's not a machine, that's communication. Something out there is talking, and it's hunting them. This is not a Hollywood screenplay. This is declassified history from the darkest corners of the Cold War. You are about to enter the secret world of military combat dolphins, real animals, real missions, real death. And by the time this story ends, you will never look at a dolphin the same way again. I'm your host at War Animal, and if you want to uncover the most shocking animal combat stories ever classified, hit that like button and subscribe right now. Tell me in the comments, do you believe animals should be weaponized? Because what you're about to hear will test your answer. The year is 1967, the Vietnam War is at its bloodiest, and the United States Navy has a problem it cannot solve with bullets or bombs. North Vietnamese combat swimmers, trained by Soviet special forces, are infiltrating the massive American naval base at Cam Ranh Bay under cover of darkness. These are not amateur divers, these are human sharks. They swim through minefields, pass patrol boats, and attach magnetic limpet mines to the hulls of ammunition ships, troop transports, and aircraft carriers. In 6 months alone, they have sunk or damaged over 20 American vessels. Hundreds of sailors have died in their bunks, asleep, never hearing the explosion that ended them. The Navy tries everything. Underwater microphones, thermal cameras, night vision patrols, nothing works. The divers are too quiet, too small, too clever. Desperate, the Pentagon reaches back to a classified program first dreamed up in 1960, a program so bizarre that most admirals laughed at it. The idea, take the most intelligent, most agile, most sonically gifted creature on Earth, strap a weapon to it, and send it to war. Not a robot, not a drone, a dolphin. Bottlenose dolphins possess natural sonar that makes human technology look like a child's toy. They can detect a single aspirin tablet from the length of a football field. They can dive to depths that would crush a Navy SEAL, and they can learn complex tasks in a fraction of the time it takes to train a soldier. But could they kill? That was the question that haunted the men of the Marine Mammal Program. A young Navy lieutenant named Michael Greenwood was assigned to answer it. Greenwood was a SEAL, tough as titanium, but he had never worked with animals. His first day at the secret facility in San Diego, he stood by a concrete pool and watched a 500-pound bottlenose dolphin named K-Dog glide toward him. "He's yours," said the lead trainer. "Train him to find enemy divers, and if you have to, stop them." Greenwood looked into K-Dog's eyes. Dolphin eyes are not like fish eyes. They are round, expressive, disturbingly human. And in that moment, Greenwood swears K-Dog understood exactly what was being asked. "This is crazy," Greenwood muttered, but he climbed into the water anyway. And that decision would change both of their lives forever. If you're just now joining us, you're about to witness a story that the US Navy denied for 40 years. Smash that like button to unlock the next part of the mission. And subscribe to War Animals so you never miss a true combat legend. Training took 18 brutal months. K-Dog learned to locate underwater mines by their unique magnetic signatures. He learned to tag enemy swimmers with a non-lethal tracking device that would send a homing signal to American patrol boats. And then came the dark lesson. The Navy had developed a special syringe, pressurized with carbon dioxide, attached to a long hollow needle. The dolphin would be trained to swim up behind an enemy diver and jab the needle into the diver's back. The CO2 would expand instantly, forcing the diver to rocket to the surface. But if the needle hit the chest cavity instead of soft tissue, the expanding gas would rupture the diver's lungs and heart. Death in under 90 seconds. Greenwood watched K-Dog practice on dummy targets. The dolphin was fast, precise, almost playful about it. He seemed to think it was a game, and that's what terrified Greenwood. He doesn't know what death is, Greenwood told his commander. He thinks he's just poking a toy. The commander's reply was cold. "That's his advantage, Lieutenant, and ours." By the summer of 1970, K-Dog was declared mission ready. He was airlifted to Cam Ranh Bay in a custom water tank aboard a C-130 transport. The other SEALs thought it was a joke. "You brought a fish to a gunfight?" They laughed. Greenwood didn't laugh. He had seen K-Dog in action. He knew what was coming. And on the night of the 12th of August, 1970, the laughter stopped forever. This is the part where the story takes a turn you will not believe. I'm serious. Put your phone down if you need to, because what happened next is still debated by military historians, and the official records are still classified. To get the full truth, you need to be subscribed. Hit that red button and ring the bell. Now, let's go back into the water. 2 a.m., no moon. The harbor at Cam Ranh Bay is a graveyard of shadows. 4 American ships are anchored in a diamond formation, including the USS Sanctuary, a hospital ship carrying over 400 wounded Marines. Greenwood and K-Dog are stationed on a small patrol boat called the Swift. The water temperature is 78 degrees. Visibility is less than 3 feet. And intelligence has just come in. 4, possibly 6 enemy divers are somewhere in the harbor right now. Launch, K-Dog, the commander orders. Greenwood kneels beside the Dolphin. He removes the safety clip from the CO2 syringe. K-Dog's black eyes watch him calmly. Find them, boy, Greenwood whispers. Find them and tag them. That's all. Just tag them. K-Dog slips into the water without a splash. His sonar clicks echo off the hulls of the ships. Greenwood watches the tracking screen as K-Dog swims toward the ammunition barge at the north end of the harbor. That's where the mines would hurt the most. One explosion there would chain react, destroying every ship within 500 yards. On the screen, K-Dog's blip stops, then it circles. Then it stops again. Greenwood's heart hammers. Contact, he says into his radio. K-Dog has something. Then the screen goes crazy. Multiple blips. 7, 8, 9. They're everywhere. Command, we have multiple bogeys, at least 8 divers. And then Greenwood hears it through the hydrophone, a sound he has never heard before. It's a clicking pattern, but different from K-Dog's. Slower, more deliberate, and it's coming from the east side of the harbor. Another Dolphin, a Russian Dolphin. The Soviets had their own secret Marine Mammal Program, and they had deployed it to Cam Ranh Bay without American intelligence knowing. This wasn't a random attack, it was a trap, and K-Dog was swimming right into it. I'm gonna pause here because I know your heart is racing. That's good. That means you're feeling what the sailors felt. If you want to know how K-Dog survived the next 3 minutes, you need to stay with me. Like this video right now to lock in your attention, and comment trap if you saw this coming. Greenwood screams into the radio, "Pull K-Dog out! There's a Soviet Dolphin in the water! Repeat, enemy Dolphin!" But it's too late. On the tracking screen, K-Dog's blip turns hard and races toward the enemy Dolphin. Dolphins are territorial. They don't back down from intruders. K-Dog closes the distance in under 10 seconds. Underwater cameras mounted on the harbor floor later captured what happened next, though the footage remains classified to this day. Witnesses who have seen it describe it as a ballet of violence. The Soviet Dolphin, a larger male named Kasatka, charged K-Dog head-on. They collided with a force that cracked bone. K-Dog was smaller, faster. He spun under Kasatka and jabbed the CO2 syringe into the Soviet Dolphin's belly. But Kasatka's blubber was too thick, the needle bent, the gas didn't deploy, and now Kasatka was enraged. He bit into K-Dog's dorsal fin, ripping a 6-inch gash. Blood clouded the water. The enemy divers, realizing their Dolphin was in trouble, began retreating. But one of them, a Soviet naval commando named Lieutenant Yuri Volkov, stayed behind. Volkov had a special mission. He wasn't just there to plant mines, he was there to capture or kill K-Dog. He pulled out a device from his belt, a magnetic limpet mine, small enough to fit in his palm, powerful enough to blow a hole through a submarine hull. He swam toward the fighting Dolphins, and he slapped the mine onto K-Dog's harness. The magnet clicked. A red light began blinking. K-Dog had 30 seconds to live. Back on the Swift, Greenwood saw the explosion timer on his screen. He didn't think. He didn't radio. He dove into the water without a life jacket, without a weapon, without even fins. He just swam. Straight into the black, straight toward his dying Dolphin. The water was thick with blood and diesel fuel. He couldn't see 3 inches in front of his face, but he could hear K-Dog's clicks. Desperate, fast, a distress call. Greenwood surfaced, gasped for air, and dove again. He reached K-Dog just as the red light started blinking faster. The mine had 15 seconds left. Greenwood grabbed the harness. The magnet was strong, nearly impossible to remove underwater. He pulled with everything he had. 10 seconds, his fingernails tore. 9 seconds, blood streamed from his hands. 8 seconds, the mine came loose. Greenwood threw it away from K-Dog and swam downward, pushing the Dolphin toward the surface. 7 seconds, 6 seconds, the mine sank into the darkness. 5 seconds, Greenwood kicked. 4, 3, 2, 1. The explosion was not loud. It was a deep, crushing whump that Greenwood felt in his teeth and his spine. The shockwave hit them both like a freight train. Greenwood blacked out. When he opened his eyes, he was floating on the surface, coughing salt water. K-Dog was beside him, limp, eyes half closed. The Soviet divers were gone. The American ships were still intact, and somewhere in the darkness, Kasatka, the Soviet Dolphin, was swimming away, wounded but alive. Greenwood wrapped his arms around K-Dog's torso and held him for an hour, waiting for rescue. "You're okay," he kept saying. "You're okay, buddy." K-Dog whistled softly. It was the most beautiful sound Greenwood had ever heard. Both man and dolphin survived that night. K-Dog received the Dickin Medal, the highest honor for military animals, in a secret ceremony in 1971. Greenwood never spoke publicly about the mission until 2015, when declassified documents finally confirmed the story. He died in 2019, but before he passed, he gave one final interview. K-Dog wasn't a weapon, he said. He was a friend, and he saved 400 men because he chose to, not because I trained him, because he chose to. The U.S. Navy still denies that it ever used dolphins for combat, but ask any SEAL who served at Cam Ranh Bay. Ask them about the clicking they heard in the dark water. They'll go quiet. They'll look away. And then they'll whisper, "I can't talk about that." That's the power of a war animal. Not the teeth, not the training, the silence they leave behind. If this story moved you, do one thing right now. Like this video and subscribe to War Animal, because the next story is even stranger. It's about a sea lion who disarmed a mine with his nose, and a CIA project that tried to turn cats into listening devices. You will not believe what happens next. Hit subscribe, ring the bell, and I'll see you in the next mission. War Animal out.